Hey sunshine, it's Marisol. As you can see, I'm outside and it's still pretty cold outside and still gloomy, and there's still snow on the ground, and I really am having the itch to garden. I've been watching a lot of YouTube gardeners where they're able to go outside and garden and start their spring cleanup, and I haven't been able to do that just because it's still pretty cold out here. It won't start getting warm until probably end of March, beginning of April, and I am like really itching to do some gardening, which is why I decided to go to my Lowe's where I work at and get some bare root plants. And let's go inside in my breezeway and I'll show you the plants that I got. So here are some of the things that I bought at Lowe's just to give me that feeling of being outside in the garden, just because I'm getting a little bit envious of people being able to be outside working in their garden. And since I live in Michigan, which is zone 6A, I can't really do anything outside because the ground is still frozen, it's still pretty cold, and I still have snow on the ground. So one of the things I decided to do was, first thing is look for some things that I can like pot like these bare root plants. And another thing that I'm going to be doing, which is I'm going to be starting a few seeds, but for today's focus I'm going to be showing you the two things that I decided that I wanted to grow in my garden this year. So one of the things that I decided to grow was these peonies, which these peonies caught my eye, and I really like the color of it. This one is called Coral Sunset. And then if you look at the back, this is what it says. But what I'm planning on doing with these is just potting them up into a nice container and having them on my porch, just because I have a little bit of problem with voles, and every time I try to grow peonies in my yard, they always eat the tubers. So I decided this time just to put them in pots and see how that goes. The other thing that I decided to grow is these, and this one is called the Bleeding Hearts. I have a lot of shade in my yard, and so I decided to give these a try. These are bare root, and basically this is what it comes with, and here this is how it comes in, and then here are the specs for these. And one of the things that I always look for, I usually buy bulbs, and I never really try to buy anything like this. But essentially what the things that I'm going to show you for this is what I also use to identify if it's going to be good bulbs or not. So I'm going to set this down, and then I'm going to show you what I mean, and I'm going to show you what I do before I even buy anything. When you're at any kind of big box stores and you see these for sale. So basically, one of the first things that I look for whenever I buy anything like this, like bulbs, like I said before, I haven't really tried my experience with buying plants like these, just because I get a little intimidated by them. But because, like I said, I am like definitely feeling the spring bug, and because I can't really garden outside right now, this was my way of satisfying the urge to be outside gardening. So one of the first things I do, I just make sure that there's like no mold, no like nothing on it, to make it feel like there's anything up the inside the bags. And then the next thing I do, I also feel to make sure that it feels pretty it feels pretty hard. It's not mushy. There's not like any mushy spots or anything like that. And then I'm showing it to you like this just because this is how you're going to be getting them in the big box stores. Like I got these from Lowe's, and so they're not going to be open when you go to search for them. So that's why I'm showing them to you still closed. So just make sure that when you are getting anything like this, that you're holding it, and it's still pretty firm, like there's no mushy spots or anything like that. And then the last thing that I always do just to make sure that it's viable is I always look for some growth points. And as you can see, these have growth points in it right now. There's a few of them right here. And then the same thing with these. These are the bleeding hearts. There's supposed to be 2 in here, which I think, see, it says this is supposed to be 2 in here, which for $6.98 for two plants, that is not a bad deal. That's why I bought 2 packs of these, because I want 4 of them. I think that's a really good deal. But essentially, you want to do the same thing. You want to make sure that there's no mold. You also want to make sure that the roots look nice and healthy, which these do. And again, you also want to make sure that you see some growth points. And as you can see, these do have growth points in them. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open it, and then I'm going to show you how they look when you take them out of the bag. So this is what this one looks like when it's out of the bag. As you can see, like I said, this one says that it has 2. And then I'm going to take the little rubber bands out just to show you that there are indeed 2 in this little bag. And then the other thing that I'm going to be doing right now is I'm going to be putting them in some milk jugs, and then just get them started right now, so that way when it's time for me to plant, they're going to be ready to go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pot them up in some soil that I'm going to be making, just because the soil, when you go outside, with the soil at the stores are still frozen because they leave them outside. And since they had some, since I was doing, because I work at Lowe's, and I was doing a reset for one of the bays inside the store. There's a lot of clearance stuff right now, and one of the clearance things right now was small bags of organic potting soil. So I just decided to make my own, and I'm going to be using potting soil. I'm going to be putting in some vermiculite, and I'm also going to be putting in some perlite, just to give it a little bit more airflow. And then basically what I'm going to do, just because I really don't want these to wake up just yet, I'm going to be leaving these in my unheated breezeway and let them just acclimate to the temperatures here slowly. Since these have been inside, this is the reason why you see the little growth points right now, because they've been inside the store, and they're not really acclimated to be outside, which is why I'm going to be leaving mine in my unheated I'm going to be leaving mine in the unheated breezeway, just so that they don't go into too much shock, just because they were inside in the warmth when I bought these. And see how they look? These look really, really healthy. The roots look really good. Same thing with this one. Oh, little root fell, but that's okay. And then here's the one of that one. And then I bought 4 of these. And then I'm going to check on the peony. So this is what the peony looks like when I took it out of the bag. As you can see, it feels quite firm. There's no mushy spots in it. And there's several growth points. There's one here, and one here. And that's pretty much what you look for when you are looking at these. And you might have to, like, I searched. Like, there was a lot of bags that looked pretty good. Just the only reason why I wanted to make sure that there were growth points on these was because I just wanted to make sure that these were viable, and that I wasn't just going to buy them in vain, and then when I planted them, nothing happened to them. So these right here with the growth points, I am guaranteed for them to turn into something. And that's the only reason why I wanted to make sure that I saw them with growth points on them. But essentially, sometimes they won't even have any of this growth point. And the same thing, you just look for, you just make sure there's no mold, there's nothing gross in the bags. And then when you touch them, they're nice and firm. and there's no mushy spots on them. That's the way you can determine if the tuber, bulb, or corm, anything that when you buy in bags are gonna be viable for you. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to be doing my soil so that I can pot them up and leave them in my unheated breezeway. So this is essentially what I'm going to be using. I'm going to be using this Performance Organic Miracle Grow. I usually don't use Miracle Grow, but like I said before, the soils here, the stores usually keep their soil outside, and I wanted something that I knew was already defrosted, not defrosted, but that wasn't frozen still, and these were inside, so these are ready to go. So I decided to grab one of these, which, like I said before, these are on clearance at Lowe's right now, and if you guys are in need of some soil right now, check out your local Lowe's. Next thing I'm going to be using some perlite. I'm pretty sure this soil has perlite in it, but I'm just going to add a little bit more just to beef up the soil, just because this is the only amount of soil that I have. So I'm going to be using some perlite. You can use perlite to provide proper aeration and drainage. So I use that. And then the other thing that I'm going to be using is vermiculite. These are the three things that I'm going to use. And I'm also going to be using Biotone starter fertilizer just to give the roots a little bit of fertilizer so that there's some root development, because that's what Biotone is used for, just for root development. So I'm going to be using that as well. Essentially what I'm just going to be doing is I'm just going to be dumping everything in this little bucket. As you can see, it does have vermiculite in it. As you can see, it does have perlite in it, but I'm going to add a little bit more just to get a little bit more bang for my buck with the soil. Okay, so I'm going to add that. And then I also had a little bit of this leftover seed starting mix. So I'm going to add that as well into it. This one has like coconut coir in it. I don't really like using this kind of seed starting mix just because the soil dries out too fast. So I'm just going to put that in there just to give it a little bit more, just to give it a little bit more body to the soil, just because I'm going to be potting up a lot of things. I'm going to be potting up at least 6 things, so I'm going to need a bit of soil. All right, and now I'm going to add some perlite. I'm just going to eyeball it. I'm not really measuring anything, just eyeball it. Maybe like that. If I need more, I'll add more. Some vermiculite. And then last but not least, I'm going to add 2 handfuls of Biotone fertilizer. Then I'm just going to mix this all up. And then what I'm going to also do is I'm going to add the soil that these things came in, which this soil looks like there's some peat moss in it, which that's another good thing. Peat moss is also a good thing to add to your soil. It has good water retention. So I'm just gonna add that in there as well. Okay, these look really good. Oops. trying to be as careful as I can, but it's kind of hard. You break some of the roots, that's okay. But see, look how good these look. These look really good, actually. Here's my peonies, nice and firm. There's still some growth points right there. Same thing with these. My last one. Now I'm just gonna mix this, and then I'm gonna pop them up into these little milk jugs. All right, so I had these milk jugs left over from previous years that I did winter sowing, which this year I'm not really doing winter sowing, so I decided to use these for these bare root plants, just because, like I said before, these were inside the store where it was getting already the warmth, and since I am not really ready for these to be outside yet, the way that I'm going to be doing to delay the process is I'm just gonna let them wake up naturally inside my unheated garage. Not my unheated garage, my unheated breezeway. My unheated breezeway usually is about 10 degrees warmer than it is outside. And essentially what I'm really gonna do, like with winter sowing, what you do is you essentially just put your soil in here, then you plant your seeds, and then you seal it, and then you put it outside, and then Mother Nature takes care of, you know, you put your seeds in, and you put your seeds, and then you put it outside, and when it's time, the seeds will germinate on their own. But I'm not really gonna do that. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put the bare root plants in here. I'm gonna just close it up like this, keep it just slightly closed so that they're still getting a little bit of warmth, just until they can get acclimated to being outside in the cold and they don't get shocked, and then they just wake up on their own when it's time for them to wake up. And then when it's time for them to go outside, I can just take them outside and leave them out there so that they can get acclimated to being outside. So basically what I'm going to do right now, and usually when you're starting seeds, you want the soil to be wet. I'm not going to do that just because, like I said, these are going to stay inside and I really don't want the soil to be too wet. So what I'm essentially going to do is just put them in here. That way they can just be potted up, and then when I'm ready to plant them outside, that's it. All right, I brought you in closer so that you can just see what I'm going to be doing. So basically, I filled it up a little bit, and then this is my peony plant, and then what I'm going to do is just gonna put it in normally here. When you plant peonies outside, you normally want to plant them at least a couple inches above the soil, just because peonies don't like their crowns, which these is what these are called. These are called the little crowns, the little growth points. They don't really like their growth points to be buried too deep, because otherwise you won't get any blooms. But because this is only going to be a temporary solution, because this is only going to be a temporary home, I'm not too worried about it. But I am just planting it just above where the growth point is. So this one is done, and then I'm gonna go grab another one of these, and the same thing. And this, I'm essentially just gonna be repeating the process for all of these. Oh, you know what? I don't think that's the peony. These are the peonies. Duh. But anyways, this is a peony. That was the bleeding heart. But essentially the same thing. Just make sure that you're planting it to where you see the growth point. Okay, so this one, just laying it on its side like that, and I'm just gonna slightly cover it like I did with the bleeding heart. And I am going to be watering these in, but I'm gonna try not to water them too much, just because, like I said, it's still cold outside, and I really don't want to shock these poor little bare root plants too much, which is why I decided to put them in the milk jugs. And then basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep it like that so that it stays like this, and it just they stay a little bit warmer. I might have to tape them a little bit, maybe just tape it a little bit, but maybe not. If I can put it in there. Yep, see? And basically that's what I'm going to do, just so that they still have a little bit of warmth from the milk jugs. All right, I'm going to do this for the other plants, and I will be right back and I'll show you where exactly I'm going to be leaving these. All right, so this is where I'm going to be leaving them. The 2 peonies are in the back, and these, the bleeding hearts are in the front. I wasn't planning on labeling them, but as you can see from before, I mistook the bleeding heart root for the peony. So I went ahead and I did label them, and I also did save the little tags from each one. I have them here near 2 plants that I bought from Mr. Maple, and they suggested to keep the 2 plants, since I'm not ready to plant them outside. They suggested to keep the 2 plants that I have inside an unheated garage, and I have an unheated breezeway. So I decided to do the same thing. This is something that I've never tried this before. I've never actually, like I said before, I've never really bought bare root plants from the store. And essentially, when you buy them, you literally just, when it's time to plant them outside, you go ahead and plant them outside. But I just wanted to have my hands in the dirt, and I wanted to experiment, see if this works. If it does work, then next year I'll do the same thing, and maybe I'll try different things. I don't know if it's gonna work. This is just an experiment, and we'll see how it goes. All right, so that's all for this video. I just wanted to show you what I am doing to beat the winter blues, and just to try to get my hands in the soil and garden any way I can. Let me know in the comments below what you all are doing to beat the winter blues. Thank you for watching, and have a good one. Bye.